Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Camber Karting podcast, the number one podcast for your best source of karting and motorsports news. We like to bring you the best possible racing product at the lowest cost to you, the consumer. It is straight from track to racer.
And we cut out the middleman.
Exactly. So remember, Camber Karting podcast. All right, so this week, we realized we took a little bit of a week off last week. We had some technical issues and some stuff outside of the podcast we had to take care of. So we decided rather than have a drawn out topic last week, we would just, kind of get back into it this week. And then lo and behold, in the motorsports world, the news has been just pouring out these last 2 weeks. Like we've gone all of 2020 with like little to no good news or interesting news in the motorsports world. And then all of a sudden within 2 weeks, it's like somebody literally opened the floodgates and the motorsports world is on fire. So we're going to report all the news this week. And rather than have a single topic, we're just going to do a roundtable discussion on all the news. And we brought in a good friend of ours, going to be regular on the show now, Mr. Andrew McCaul.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello. So welcome back to the Camber Karting podcast, the digital studio here.
Thank you. It's good to be back. I'm ready to spread some hot fire takes.
Hot fire takes. I like that.
Hot, spicy, super hot fire.
We're like the sriracha of karting news and motorsports news. So actually this week we're kind of a little light on karting news, to be honest. There's been so much big stuff happening. So let's get down to it. Let's get down to business. First things first, this is going to be a little back news for those of you, but we have to discuss it nonetheless. The first thing that came out was the announcement of Fontana, California, Auto Club Speedway is no longer going to be the 2-mile super speedway that they have been in the past. They're moving forward in the next year to turn that into a short track. I think it was half-mile short track. So very interesting move. Chris, what do you think on this? Andrew, what do you think?
Man, I think there's something to be said about the death of one of the few super speedways in the world. I think that there's something to be said of there being one fewer IndyCar suitable track in the world. Yeah, that place is a place that has tremendous history in terms of, it was the first. I mean, I think that's still the home of the closed course world record, set by Gilles de Ferran, 241.428 miles per hour. But at the same time, I totally get why NASCAR has done this. That track hasn't really attracted a big crowd, and its main feature was the fact that it had a worn out surface, and you can't leave a surface worn out forever. So they were faced with either repaving it and losing the one bit of, the one advantage it had to promote a competitive race, an entertaining race, and then have to wait, another 10 years for the surface to wear out again. Or they could just bite the bullet and go for what the fans have been asking for. So it's a brave decision. It's a gamble. But I think that it'll work out in their favor. It'll just take a lot of getting used to.
Yeah, I think this is a situation where, we the fans are kind of getting what we asked for. Because I know from a NASCAR perspective, people are always clamoring for more short tracks, less of the big speedways. Well, we're getting what we want now. Just came at the expense of one of the actual better big tracks on the schedule, and as Kirsten said, one of the more IndyCar suitable ones. I know that anyone who watched the 2015 Fontana IndyCar race is certainly going to miss Auto Club in its current configuration.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's, that place is special. It is special because of Gilles de Ferran's close course speed record, which, by the way, the latest issue of Racer Magazine I received this week, and they do the half and half, and half was the winning issue, and then half was the Great Cars special. And among the Great Cars is the Renski.
Yes.
And
The 2KI.
Yep, they talked about that. Jill DeFerrin did an interview with them, and Tim Cindric, and that was really cool. He was talking about just driving that, and the car was just pressure sensitive on the steering wheel. He never actually had to really turn it. It was just so perfect, and that was the culmination of all their aero work on that car. But legendary track there. That race was definitely awesome. Being a Will Power fan, that's where he finally captured a darn championship. It's also where he's lost his championship once. But
yeah, I think I still see 2012 his car just doing a nice lazy spin. I think I still see that in my mind's eye when I close my eyes at night.
To the outside of Hunter Ray, who I believe was the eventual champion.
Yeah,
it was a nightmare incarnate. But real quick shout out, Will, congratulations on your win finally this year. So from one fan, woo. Anyway, getting back to that. Yeah, it's definitely hard to see that this is one of the better tracks going. And I'm happy to see short tracks come back for NASCAR. That's definitely where the action is. But my question is, why can't we have North Wilkesboro back?
For real. Well, you have the two perfect people to have this discussion with, because Andrew and I went to North Wilkesboro on our pilgrimage east a couple of spring breaks ago. And Andrew, what were your thoughts on seeing such a magnificent cathedral of motorsports?
Well, it was and please pardon me if you're religious, but a rather spiritual experience almost, in a way. It's so weird to see like an old NASCAR relic just kind of falling apart, to be honest. It's like one of those last threads of NASCAR's kind of rural country roots.
Yeah, it was. The only thing I can kind of relate to that was, and this is kind of a karting related thing, ladies and gentlemen. Back in my oval karting days, there was a track that I raced at here in Indiana called Windfall Raceway, in Windfall, Indiana. And this is the Windfall had two tracks in its history. It had a short, high banked, and I mean high banked bowl. That was the first track, and then they closed that part of it down, but kept the track there, and they built like a quarter mile, like D oval, and that was the one I raced on, and neither of those tracks are there anymore. I was recently looking at like the satellite pictures, because I was like, I wonder if that's still there, if you can still see it. Nope, it's been plowed over and it's a cornfield now. But that track was really interesting because the High Bank Bowl had the distinction of making it on what was one of those early to mid 90s shows that they sent in the shocking home video recordings.
Oh, like, America's Funniest Home Video?
Not funny video recordings, but like car accidents and
what were you watching in the night?
it might have been like Hard Copy or something. There was one of those shows, I forget what it was, but they did a segment on Windfall because there were so many videos of so many big wrecks happening there and fights. And it was really kind of one of the first places in the Midwest, I think, that oval karting really took hold. When we had purpose-built oval chassis for the first time. Because you see these carts flipping up in the air, and I'm looking at the bottoms of the chassis, and I'm like, hey, I know who built that. Because there were such odd designs. And but yeah, seeing that track on national TV, and then maybe not for the right reasons, but and then being able to go there, and when I raced there, that part or that little track was already overgrown, and it looked very much like North Wilkesboro does now. And it was just so surreal that seeing this piece of oval karting history, just this, it was just falling apart. It was very spiritual feeling. So I understand that a little bit.
Yeah, North Wilkesboro in particular, just why it left the schedule was just it's one of those forest for the trees moments, right? And I
Yeah.
don't mean to criticize NASCAR and Brune Smith for this, right? But it's one of those, you got to remember who helped you get to where you are, as an organization, and you got to maintain your loyalty to at least providing them what at least still somewhat catering to them in having a race in their backyard. You know, because Wilkesboro, it's two dates. I think one went to New Hampshire and one went to Texas, right?
I
And
know for sure Texas.
yeah, Texas, and I'm pretty sure the other one went to a second New Hampshire date. Um, and yeah, it was during the boom period of, like, because that was that
97 was
yeah
the
that
first year
was
that Wilkesboro was taken off.
yeah, because that was the year my family moved to Charlotte. So it was like, and we moved there during that, or moved to North Carolina, and that was during that huge boom. NASCAR was booming, the new South was booming and everything economically. Um, but I still feel for those people in Wilkes County who, they that was a community hub. There's not much up there, you know,
Yeah.
and so to see that place kind of get taken away from them, I'm glad that it's been resurrected in iRacing. I think Mother Nature has given us a free pass, as it were, on that facility, and that racing surface could be a lot more. There could be a lot more damage done to it in the past 25 years than there has been. If you look at a place like Nazareth that only shut down 15 years ago, and I mean, just driving around the area, and even from the aerial views, it's hard to tell a racetrack was ever there. I think that we're still in that sweet spot where it'll take some doing, but North Wilkesboro could come back. I think it would easily be the most popular track on the circuit for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Um, so, but I understand what NASCAR is doing, and you're actually reducing the cost of maintaining a track by taking a big track and making it shorter. Yes, there's going to be some initial cost, but to just the construction. But honestly, I hate to see the electricity bill for a 2 mile super speedway,
Yeah.
versus a short track.
I think the plan included a lot of the property that's being used for the 2 miles right now is going to be sold for commercial
Yeah.
development. So I think they're going to make some of their initial investment back pretty quickly.
Right.
I kind of wonder what will happen to Cal Speed. Isn't Cal Speed like right next to Fontana Auto Club Speedway?
Um, hmm, I don't
I think
know.
you might be right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I know, and we're talking about kart track, right?
Yes, Cal
Yeah.
Speed karting track.
Okay. Cal Speed, that's a good question because is that the one that kind of runs in the parking lot there?
Yeah, there's no
Yeah.
grass as far as I know.
Yeah, it's one of the parking lots, and they've marked out a
Yeah.
course. Yeah, because they held the California State Karting Championships there.
Yep.
That's a good question. If any of you listeners out there are associated with the Cal Speed, hit us up, send us a message somehow, because
Have we provided contact information for the show yet?
no, but I will do that right now. I know you can send us a message through our YouTube channel, because that's connected. But right now you can get a hold of us at offcambermotorsports@gmail.com, I believe. So if you have any questions, any information regarding this, please get a hold of us with that, because I would love to talk about that in more detail. And maybe talk to you guys about your show, your everything you put on out there, because I enjoy watching the YouTube videos. But yeah, that is offcambermotorsports@gmail.com. Please limit the hate mail. But yeah, I don't know what's going to happen to that. I hope that at least that parking lot stays around where they can continue to do that, because that was, if I end up moving to the West Coast in a few years, like planned, I kind of wanted to make a pilgrimage down there and check it out. along with Adams and a few other tracks in the area. So yeah, that's a good question. So big part of American racing history and its current culture is, I don't want to say going away, but it's changing. So we hope for the best. I think the racing will be better there with NASCAR, but it certainly does suck that the IndyCar side of it maybe is going to get left out of it. But who knows? Maybe we're going to try a short track race with IndyCars. Wouldn't that be fun?
Oh boy.
Oh man, see that's why I wish it would be like a 3/4 mile track, because
Yeah.
Like
that would be
another
perfect.
Richmond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hopefully next year, if we start to get through this pandemic, we'll actually get IndyCar to Richmond like it was planned on this year.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to that race. I know Chris and I were doing iRacing on that with the, I think it was the previous generation Indy cars, the old Delaras, and that was a lot of fun. So.
Oh yeah, that I mean, even if you go back and watch some of the races from that era, right? It's how did they ever leave?
Yeah.
Like that's my kind of short track racing.
Yeah.
That reminds you of like Silver Crown card.
Yeah.
Like Saturday Night Thunder, level, open wheel racing. So
Yeah. So moving on from that, I guess since we're in the NASCAR culture right now, let's go through all our big NASCAR news. We were going to
we're
report
gonna
on
be
this
here a
last week.
while.
Yeah, we're going to be here a while for this one. So first of all, the first thing that came out last week that we were going to report on for driver news was Bubba Wallace was announced that he was leaving the 43 team at the end of the season. And here's the silly part. Actually, I'm not going to tell you who Chris and I bet on, what ride we bet on him going to. So
Corey, what are you talking about? We obviously bet on the correct answer.
Yeah,
right?
obviously, we're still batting 1,000. They're perfect. The audience didn't hear what we said, so we predicted.
If they didn't hear it, it never happened.
Yeah, it didn't happen. We predicted this perfectly. It was announced this week that Denny Hamlin is forming, I want to say like a super team, so to speak, of one, a wolf pack of one. He's forming his own team that's going to be a satellite operation of Gibbs, with Bubba Wallace as the driver and Michael Jordan as co-owner. The Michael Jordan. The Michael Jordan, guys.
So just in case y'all didn't hear that, Space Jam is coming to NASCAR. Yes.
I personally hope that the first car that they roll out, if Michael Jordan's sponsoring it, is going to say Toon Squad on the hood. I would, and the crew have to have a fire suit at some point that looks like a basketball uniform. They've just got.
That'll be the Darlington throwback.
Oh, okay. But I'm going to imagine it's going to be the 23 car, obviously, with Jordan's number. But this is big. Like, man, I'm really happy for Bubba in this situation, because this could turn out to be one of the really new, exciting. I mean, it's new and exciting already, but one of the new and exciting teams. Really, the ride of his life. He could be in top-notch equipment, and he has, Denny Hamlin as owner, and Denny Hamlin really cares. I feel like he really still has this passion, and Michael Jordan's been very involved with Denny's career now for a while.
And they're still connected with Joe Gibbs, who was one of the early shepherds of Bubba Wallace's career.
Exactly.
So, in terms of the drive, in terms of Joe Gibbs, when the Drive for Adversity first started, I think, and they were really looking for Cup owners to help foster that and buy into it. I think he was one of the only ones that did, and you can see how that's paid off. It paved the way for Suarez, and it really he was really a benefactor for Bubba. That connection got him his ride with KBM and trucks, and I think he made 5 starts for Gibbs in 2011 and 2012, or 2012 and 2013 in nationwide. So I'm just, it's good that Bubba's going to be in a situation where he's got a support system and people who genuinely care and have cared for a while. I think the only question is going to be whether the cars are immediately up to speed and whether Denny can balance, racing for one team and owning a different.
It'll be an interesting view because, since it's still a Gibbs associated team, I'm going to guess, since they're buying the charter for what was it? Was it Germain?
Germain.
Yeah.
Germain Racing, the 13
Since they're
car.
buying the charter, my guess is they're probably going to be operating out of the Gibbs shop. So there's probably not going to be a whole lot of difference between that being a regular Gibbs car. It's just they don't have that extra Gibbs charter. And he wants to establish his own team, so they bought that. So I'm guessing the first year or two, the performance will be down a little bit because they might not be getting the top tier stuff on the team, but it's going to be a heck of a lot better than some other teams out there. Definitely, I think it'll probably be better than the 43 car at this point.
Yeah, and I agree. I'm still kind of in the wait and see phase of this, because exciting as an opportunity as that is for Bubba Wallace, and I'm sure it will be better than the 43 car. I just hope that perhaps MJ doesn't have unrealistic expectations of how the team is going to do its first year in Cup competition.
Yeah. He has stated, I think he tweeted that he wants to come out and win. Like, he wants to win. I just hope he realizes what it takes for a race team that's just starting out, even if they're associated with a big team, to go out and win. It's a pretty monumental task. But they are putting all the pieces together, so.
Yeah, I think that that's been the big issue with, teams coming in, really, raring to go, especially with celebrity involvement. Like, people just don't get that it is a much more complicated equation than money plus talent, right?
Yeah.
We've seen teams in, especially Formula One, but NASCAR as well, that looked like they had it all together, right? They had the pedigree, they had all of the right pieces, and just didn't achieve, right? So I'm not resting all my hopes on this. I just hope that it helps. It helps Bubba stay afloat, if not climb a little bit higher within the series.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see. I hope that works out. It'll be good to see MJ in the series. Definitely a good move by them. We still haven't heard anything on what is going to happen to the 43 car as of right now. Who's going to be in that? What the future of the car is? Because we know, Richard Petty Motorsports has kind of struggled for a while. So it's kind of a wait and see on that. But another puzzle piece that fell into place this last week, probably right before this announcement, but we got the confirmation of who was going to be in the 42 car for next season.
Yep. The watermelon farmer, Ross Chastain.
Watermelon Man himself. Hopefully we get some, I'd love to see him up in victory lane and get some more Gallagher moments there.
Yeah. I think it's I'd say that this is an announcement that's been a couple years in the making. He was supposed to be in the 42 full time in the Xfinity series, and then we all know what happened with DC Solar.
Yeah.
Turns out FBI raids aren't good for race teams.
No, obviously not. Yeah, he's been doing some yeoman's work, driving anything he could get his hands on. So props to him for sticking it out, and props to Chip Ganassi for honoring his promise.
Yeah.
Ross Chastain is really the model of kind of a rags to riches story in motorsports, in my view.
Yeah. He's definitely a feel-good story. When I heard that was announced right before the Bubba thing, I'm like, uh-oh, where's Bubba going then? Because it's like that was one of the big open seats. Everyone pretty much conceded that Kenseth wouldn't be in the ride next year. But I was like, okay, yeah, this is really cool to see Ross Chastain actually finally getting this ride. He's worked really hard. He's a heck of a driver, heck of a guy. So really happy to hear that. Props to you, Ross, for sticking it out. I mean, I don't want to say it's the American dream, but that's the American dream as a racer. Kind of doing it the old-fashioned way. So that was really cool. And then the next bit of NASCAR news really kind of transitions out of NASCAR, literally, is the big announcement that everyone I'm sure has heard by this point, but Jimmy Johnson announced that he would be driving for Chip Ganassi Racing in IndyCar next season, the next 2 years, I believe. So that was a huge bomb dropping on the motorsports world.
We always talk about those halcyon days of drivers being able to jump from one series and one form of motorsports to another. In the days of, Parnelli Jones and Dan Gurney and Mario Andretti. And it's good to know that those days aren't completely behind us, and indeed there might be more of them in front of us now. It's great to see, yeah, a 7-time champion in NASCAR. You think of someone who is very secure in their legacy and really feels that they have nothing left to prove. So to see someone going out on a limb like this and chasing a childhood dream, I know that he talked about being a kid watching the Long Beach Grand Prix back in the '80s. So to see him go out on a limb like this and really because there's no guarantee that he's going to be really successful. I think it's brave of him, and he has he has all of my respect for that.
The thing that I've seen with this, because the video that he released came from the day that he tested at the Speedway. So he's known for a while. They've just been holding it. He is really passionate about this and really fired up about it. Like, I haven't seen him this giddy. He's like a teenager going on his first date.
Yeah.
I mean, he's so giddy to get into an IndyCar and do this, and I am so happy to see that passion back, because it's been kind of fading. You could see that in NASCAR. It's been kind of fading. He's turned into, one of the 3 7-time champions now. His legacy is definitely secure. He doesn't need to do anything after he retires, really. He can market himself, his name, and have plenty to go around. He has a beautiful family. But now he's like, okay, now I want to go do this for me. And I am really into it. And I got to give him props. I've never been much of a Johnson fan. During his period of domination, it felt a lot like, Formula One through the Hamilton era, through the Vettel era, through the Schumacher. Just, it felt a lot like that. But
Yeah.
he is really, comparing him to some of his younger teammates now, man, you gotta respect the guy. And now that he wants to come do this and not just sit back and say, oh, I won NASCAR 7 times, I'm good. I throw my full support at him with that. I really hope that, he gets the rock the number 48. Because it's only fitting, I think, that he should bring the 48 over with him. And it'd be cool if they do like an old Dan Gurney tribute. That'd be neat. But yeah, it's definitely really cool. It's great to see him out there. And I hope they find the sponsorship to get him back out on track, because they're still trying to put that together. Interesting enough, right now it's just road and street courses. But it was reported at some point, I believe, that he is open to doing the 500. But it's not on his calendar right now.
Well, I think it's hard for any driver to get into an IndyCar seat within a competitive team and not feel the call of the 500.
Yeah.
Especially for an American driver.
Yeah.
The first thing I want to say is that it's Jimmy Johnson is a clear example of how NASCAR and its schedule can burn a driver out.
Absolutely.
Because it's I think with IndyCar, there are few enough races and the races are short enough that if you have If your car is just not doing what it should and your team's not doing what they should in a year, you know, it's not miserable. But when every race is 400 something miles, you know, if you just don't have the pace, it is a grind. You know,
I
Yeah,
think
that's what he's been suffering from the past
Yeah.
couple years, really. Just him and Hendrick in general haven't had the pace to be up front with guys like Gibbs and Penske and Stewart Haas.
the Chevy cars have
It's
definitely had a disadvantage. Ugh, it's
and
been
so
tough.
it's it's to be away from your family, because I know he's a family guy, and to be away from your family 39 weekends out of the year, and for most of those weekends to be an absolute drag, you know.
Yeah.
I think that that wears on your psyche. So I'm over the moon. I'm elated that he's found his second wind in with IndyCar.
We
But
just need to get
I do,
Allmendinger back now.
for real, man. That'd be, oh
Sorry.
man. I think I would
Let's bring
I'd be
Kurt.
hard I don't I'd be hard pressed not to go to every race if Allmendinger was back in IndyCar.
Let's bring Kurt.
You
Let's
know.
bring Jimmy. Let's bring Allmendinger. These guys who I feel like know what it's about. You see
Yeah.
that trio of passionate drivers. Let's just bring them all in there and let's make this like a real all-star series. As I've heard it said, what is Tony Stewart's new series called next year? That's basically
The
SRX.
XRX. That was a really cool announcement, and I was like, yeah, all-star races all the time. But dang, IndyCar has taken the trophy there because we're getting Johnson in here, and man, I mean, when you have a former Formula One world champion chasing his triple crown coming over for the 500, and Alonso interested in doing it, and then you have 7-time NASCAR champion, one of our greatest drivers of all time, coming over and doing it after he retires from NASCAR, you're heading in the right direction for sure there, buddy. And I think
Yeah.
the aero screen probably is a big part of this.
Oh yeah,
I
because
would have to say.
Allmendinger said I think it was after Justin Wilson died. I think Allmendinger was like, you know what? Until they do something about those kind of until they can protect the head better, he wasn't getting back in a car. So who knows? Maybe
Well, we invite you to
this.
come back to IndyCar, Allmendinger, because I think they have definitely taken a step forward with this. So please humor us.
Yeah, for real. 2013 was a magical year with because it was 2013. He was back in IndyCar with Penske, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
so.
that was a magical year as an Allmendinger and IndyCar fan. So please, AJ, we beg of you, give us fanboys something to squeal about.
And Kurt, you need to come over and bring some of that sweet monster money with you.
Don't forget Kyle.
It'll be interesting if we ever get to see Kyle in a car. Like, I think he's talent to do it, but he's starting. He's got his family. He's starting to get to that age where he's like, I don't know, man. So
I think he's happy to just be dominating the stock car ranks.
Not this year, though.
Yeah, but think about it. It's so abnormal to have a year where he's not, right?
Yes.
So
yeah,
I think that just puts it in even more stark contrast, just how often he is slapping the field.
yeah. So, but that was a big announcement that we're kind of waiting to see how that turns out, and hopefully, he gets to do Indy. Maybe that's like a sponsor clause, like, hey, we'll sponsor you for the full season, but you got to do Indy. He'd probably definitely jump on that. Like, okay. So
if you say so.
If you say so.
You're twisting my arm, man, but for the fans.
Yeah. But and then let's see, moving forward, since we're into IndyCar, the other big announcement actually came last week was the addition of a new street race. We've got the Music City Grand Prix in Nashville, Tennessee.
Finally, we're making inroads into NASCAR country. I think that'll be Joseph Newgarden's hometown race, so that'll be nice.
Oh boy, you bet.
Yeah.
Now, there is a history of short-lived street circuits. I mean, we think of Denver, we think of
Baltimore,
Detroit,
Houston,
yeah, Detroit before Belle Isle, Detroit in like
Cleveland.
late 80s.
Yeah.
Cleveland was on there for a while, though. Cleveland was on there for a solid 20 years. But Sao Paulo,
Edmonton.
Edmonton,
Yeah, not Cleveland,
And-
Edmonton.
though we would love to see Cleveland back on the schedule. That would be awesome. But
When was the last time they had a Cleveland race, by the way?
I want to say Champ Car in like 07.
Okay. Yeah, it's really interesting. We hope this sticks around because, Houston, all these other street races have gone away. Sao Paulo was a really fun street race. I missed that. That was fun to watch.
What track was it Sao Paulo? Which one had the railroad tracks in the middle of it?
That was Baltimore.
That was Baltimore.
Okay, that was Baltimore. All right.
And back in the Champ Car days, they ran, was it Mexico City?
Yep. Fundadora Park.
And running down one of the straightaways in Mexico City or wherever they raced there was hilarious to watch because it was so bumpy. And you just see the cars just going the whole way down. Oof. So yeah, and at some point there was a Las Vegas street race.
They were supposed to race Boston. That didn't pan out.
Yeah, Boston. And then F1 wanted to do New Jersey, which is basically New York City. Because I'm looking up at my racing poster here on the wall that's got all these tracks, and this was made right before everything got canceled for that race. So it's Port Imperial. It was supposed to be a street race through it's supposed to be through New Jersey. So it was supposed to be introduced in 2015 and didn't happen for F1. So but yeah, hopefully this will stick around for a while because the track looks pretty neat.
I'm literally looking at Google Maps right now at the street layout that they're going to use.
Look, do you see that front stretch? I'm pretty sure that's longer than. I'm pretty sure that'll be the longest straightaway they have in the series.
Yeah, no, it'll be a really long stretch to the start line because it'll be a weird start line because turn 1 is like going to be this really big sweeping left-hander, like 90-degree left-hander, but the finish line is going to be like 3 corners later. So it'll be kind of like mid-Ohio in the way they start and restart. But that first corner after you restart is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lanes wide.
Wow.
And that's entering the corner, and then it compresses to 4.
Oof. So we're talking kind of like St. Pete in turn 1.
Yeah.
St. Pete. I mean, that's almost Pocono levels of.
Yeah.
Oh no, that Portland. That's what that reminds me of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shout out to on Twitter, I believe it is Retro Rebel. They posted a video. They took the Google Street Views and sped it up. They did the Street View around the whole course basically, and sped it up and put IndyCar sounds over the top of it to kind of give you the onboard feel. And that was pretty interesting. It was also pretty interesting because they turned into the parking lot. I think that's supposed to be the pits, and there were trailers parked there for they look like IndyCar trailers. Like I think would have been like the Indy Lights trailer, like the series trailer, and maybe the IndyCar series trailer. So maybe they were there doing some that day, looking over the track. I don't know. They could have blocked off the street and took somebody around. But the really interesting part about this track is the bridge.
Ah, yes.
Yep.
You're going down one side of a divided bridge. You go down, I think, to like a hairpin, and then you turn around and go back down the other side of the bridge.
It'll be like a little pinhole. It'll be like a left-handed pinhole at the top.
Yeah. Somebody pointed out online on the track forum, the IndyCar track forum, a really interesting point. Haven't we learned from the movie Driven?
Hey, but wait, but it's not in Germany this time. It's in the U.S.
Well, I think it was like the Detroit
physics.
race when they did the season finale at Detroit. You had the car go flying over the barrier into the.
No, it wasn't Detroit, was it?
Well, there was two. The big scene where the car blew up was in Germany.
Yeah.
And then they were at Detroit and they had like this big pileup of cars, and one goes flying into the water.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Don't ask me why I know this that well.
Why have you watched Driven that much, Corey?
We won't talk about that.
So, funny history point. This isn't the first time that a American racing series has raced over a bridge. Des Moines, Iowa, Trans Am, 1990. They did the same thing.
Oh. Did they go in the water?
No, but also don't ask me how I know that.
Okay. So, Trans Am can do it. They cannot go in the water. IndyCar, I'm looking at you not to repeat everything that happened in that movie. Don't be brave. Don't be Joe Tanto.
Don't do the coin trick. Actually, do the coin trick.
The coin trick would be cool. We're gonna have to do a whole episode on racing movies, both the good, the bad, and the ugly of them. Maybe that's our next episode. That'll be a fun one to talk about because there's some interesting examples. Yeah, you know what? We're gonna put that on the books right now. Next episode, unless we get a huge amount of news, we're gonna talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of racing and mainstream media. There we go. Got it planned out. That'll be a fun discussion. Our nerd sides will come out in us.
Does this mean I get to rant about Ricky Bobby?
I will come at you like a spider monkey.
Spider monkey. Okay. Well, I will get my rant muscles ready.
Because I will be all jacked up on Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew.
Moving forward, keeping on the IndyCar side of things, something that just dropped today. This is breaking news for us, for everybody. So first of all, next weekend is the Harvest Grand Prix at Indianapolis, and the big news that came out today was Oliver Askew is out of commission. He will not be running in that race. One of the rookies for McLaren who has shown promise. He will be out due to medical reasons and not because of any pandemic-related issues. He actually came out and said he was concussion-like symptoms. Jenna Fryer reported today on Twitter. She said Oliver Askew is suffering from concussion-like symptoms and will not race next week at Indy. Here is the big kicker. His replacement. And this is monumental.
Drum roll.
Elio Castroneves will be replacing him. This is the first time since
nowhere.
Yeah, first time since '99, I think, that Elio has raced for a different team in IndyCar, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I want to say he was with Hogan, I believe.
Okay, so yeah, this is like the first time since '99, really the first time in a whole generation that people are going to see Elio not in a Penske car. It is pretty crazy, but he will be stepping in for both races. So apparently, with the whole Askew situation, he had his big wreck at Indianapolis. I believe if you watch the 500 or listen to it, you heard or seen the big collision with the infield wall, I believe, coming out of turn 4.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure if you
Connor Daly.
I'm pretty sure if you were in the state of Indiana, you probably felt that. That was a heavy impact.
But it was a heavy impact. He was able to walk away from it. But he started suffering concussion-like symptoms, apparently, and he has not felt good since then. When he started suffering these, we don't know, but apparently he sought this diagnosis on his own. So this is an interesting a mini topic for this week about concussions in racing. I don't know about you, Andrew, but I know Chris and I have some experience with concussions. Chris has racing concussion experience. I have just concussion experience. And this sounds like it was really delayed symptoms that were probably not caught in the concussion protocol, because I know IndyCar has very good concussion protocol. So, Chris, tell us about your experience with that.
Um,
Kind of briefly summarize it.
it's one of those things where, you know, if you've had more than a couple, you know the feeling, and so you immediately know what you need to do. But if not, it can really sneak up on you. Because if you're not knocked unconscious and, the headache goes away after a day, it's really, unless you're looking for the signs, sometimes it's easy to think, oh, I'm okay, and go back to doing what you're doing. And only then you realize that no, you actually do have a bruise on your brain. You have a brain injury, and continuing to use your brain as you normally would is only going to keep that injury from healing. So props to him. And as racers, we are in a cult. We're part of a culture that has not fully, I think, it has more than any other sport, but still hasn't fully shaken off the macho image of you just you shake it off and get back in the car, or it takes so much just to get the opportunity to be back on track that you don't want to ever voluntarily give up one of those opportunities. So that's why people like Dale Jr. and now Oliver Askew have my immense respect, because they say, hey, something doesn't feel right. What I'd say is that anytime it's a long road, and you can't take anything for granted once your brain is bruised.
Yeah.
You really have to. I mean, you got to put the phone down. Don't visual stimuli is going to aggravate your symptoms. So it's not easy. It's not an easy recovery. So if you hit your head, or you think something's wrong, say something. This is especially for the young karters out there, because they're especially vulnerable. Um, if you think something's wrong, or you've had a head injury, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. Take the time to just step away and make sure you're your best before you get back
Yeah.
behind the wheel. And that was the toughest couple of months of my life. Andrew, you know this. That was, you know, having to be told and having to prove that it was safe for me to get back in a racing vehicle was harder than this pandemic has been. With I know I'm healthy enough to be in a racing vehicle, but for part of the year, wasn't able to because of external factors. But it's something totally different when your body isn't allowing.
I think there's also the factor of, with the pandemic, other people are affected by the same thing, but when it's just you and the symptoms you're experiencing, or what's keeping you out of the car, that makes it especially difficult because it feels so isolating.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely pulling for him to come back, and hoping he's going to be okay. But it is exciting to see Elio in the car now, I guess. If there is a rainbow, a pot of gold at the end of this crappy rainbow. And that kind of moves us into our next topic. We'll get a little bit more lighthearted here. Sorry to bring everyone down. The only reason Elio is able to do this is because if you've been paying attention to sports car news, first of all, Elio had an Indy-only contract the last 2 years or 3 years with Penske, I think.
That's about right, yeah.
He was only doing the Indy 500. He was, I don't want to say relegated, but kind of relegated to being full-time driver on their sports car team, their DPI cars in IMSA. They were the Acura factory team, basically, when Acura came into it in the DPI era. And he's shown that he's very, very good at that. But he obviously wants to get back to IndyCar. Well, this year, Penske announced that they would be folding their Acura DPI team and pulling out of sports car racing. That leaves 2 cars off the grid. and informed his drivers for the team, which included Elio, Juan Pablo Montoya, Dane Cameron, and Ricky Taylor, if I'm correct. That's all 4 of them, to seek employment elsewhere. Didn't fire them, but said you're open to look elsewhere. And part of Elio's stipulation was because he was no longer driving the sports cars, his ride just dissolved completely. That was his clause. He said, I'll go drive the sports cars if you give me a 500 ride. Well, sports car ride's gone. 500 ride's gone now. So Elio announced that he had been looking for another ride for a while. And so this is his first opportunity to kind of impress and get back in a seat and see what he can do on a road course in an IndyCar. But the interesting news that just dropped, was it yesterday I think this dropped, was Acura is not gone from DPI competition. They're coming back.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It was announced that, and this was kind of the best, not, the worst kept secret ever, that Michael Shank Racing was going to be fielding one of their Acura DPI. Michael Shank Racing has a long standing with Acura and Honda now. After Michael Shank got out of the Daytona prototype category, technically, when they were still in prototype, they went to running a LMP2 car, Ligier, with a Honda engine in it. And that started their long relationship with Honda. Acura is a rebadged Honda. And then they dropped out of prototype category and went GT Daytona racing with the new NSX from Acura. And they've been doing that for some time now with success. And they've been the Acura NSX factory team in GT Daytona. So it was kind of a badly kept secret, really, that they were going to take over one of the Acura teams when Penske left. They had really wanted to do that. And considering they expanded to IndyCar with Honda, it was one of those that made sense. The real kicker to all this was the second team. Real quick quote here. Quotes to Charlie Barons on YouTube. It's the kicker. He says the Craigslist kicker, but it's the kicker here. And Wayne Taylor Racing announced that they are switching to Acura DPIs starting next season.
Whew. Which is an absolute, I am floored.
That's a bombshell.
Yeah, I was about to say.
When you think the darling of the Cadillac racing contingent, you think Wayne Taylor Racing, right?
They have long time been the GM stalwart because they started. I'm trying to think when they started with
the Chevy, or with the Corvette, and before that
they were with Pontiac when Pontiac was doing. Yeah. So that was GM, and then they moved to the Corvette.
Was Wayne Taylor ever driving the Corvette ALMS program in the early 2000s, or was he just a straight prototype driver?
I'd like to say he was straight prototypes. Don't quote me on that exactly, but that's what I remember because they got the deal with. He's long been associated with Konica Minolta as a sponsor, dating all the way back to, the 90s when he was driving the Riley and Scott cars with the Oldsmobile in it, I believe. That was 96 when he won, I think, the 24 Hours of Daytona, and he had the sponsorship with them. So he's had them for a long time. They had SunTrust for a long time. But they have been like this GM stalwart forever. And now to see them just switching over to Acuras, that's big. Man.
It makes you wonder what went on behind the scenes.
So, from what I have gathered from various reports, and I will give credit to Mr. David Land on some of this, because he was able to, credit to him. That was one of the sources I gathered. I know he's gathered some more sources. But apparently, Wayne Taylor, going into the Cadillac deal with the DPIs, was hoping for more factory involvement. And they didn't get the factory involvement they thought they were going to get, from what I have heard, whether it's true or not. It was more of a, there's not one factory, or there's not a real bunch of factory involvement. It's just everyone's a customer team. And obviously they've done well. How is it? 3 Daytona 24 hours they won now with them.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, because
One with
Yeah.
Jeff Gordon.
yeah, that was the first one with Cadillac. Then you had the second one that was with Alonso, and then this year they won with Dixon. So yeah, they've had a lot of success with Cadillac. So it's not like they're lacking a lot. But I think that was something that led them to not want to stick with them. They were kind of looking elsewhere. And I guess he had nothing but good things to say about Cadillac, but that might have been like the one sticking point. Acura is very much said that they are going to run the Acura programs as factory teams. Michael Shank is going to get all the Acura. Obviously, he's going to get all the Acura backing because he's got a great relationship with the Honda guys. And Wayne Taylor, the last thing I think you want to do to Wayne Taylor Racing is leave them hanging. So I think that is looking good for them. It's bad because we still are losing one car off of the prototype grid. If you think about the net loss versus gain. And then I think we're losing the two. Right now, we're losing the two NSXs from the GT Daytona category. But a nice thing that Michael Shank said is, the NSXs will be back. There are teams that are looking at it. It will be run pretty much like a factory program. And Michael Shank said for those teams that pick it up, they're going to have all the notebooks of their notes for those cars ready to go. All the support they need. They're not just going to hand it off and say goodbye. They're going to actively support those teams. So that's really positive. That's really cool. And I hope that we can see those cars back on the grid. So what this means, I think, for the future is, I think the obvious, if you talk about driver alignment, because it looks like the remaining Juan Pablo Montoya and Elio are out of their contract. And I think they're going opposite directions. But it sounds like Dane Cameron and Ricky Taylor are kind of going with the cars. So that kind of echoes to me the obvious that Ricky Taylor's probably going to go back to his dad's team.
Yeah, I mean, I'd hope so. That you'd like to see the Taylors stick together.
Yeah. And then Dane Cameron's probably going to go over to the Mike Shank outfit to, I think that is part of the deal. Like they each get one driver from the factory program. And what's also interesting is these cars, they're not getting brand new cars. They're getting the Penske cars. And from what I read, they're going to come off the trailer from Penske and roll them into the trailer for the, for Mike Shank and Wayne Taylor. So you get these, I guess we'll call them Penske-fied cars right off the bat. I'm hoping they stay in that condition, that they don't, change a bunch of stuff on them, because they're no longer going to be associated with the program. But I'm guessing since they were the factory team, there's going to be setup books and stuff. So that'll be really interesting.
Yeah. It's, I guess as a JPM fan, I'm kind of worried about where his career is going to go after this. We know he's got
SRX.
He's expressed interest in Le Mans. He wants. If everyone forgets, JPM is also going for the Triple Crown, guys. So Le Mans is the last jewel in his crown that he doesn't have.
But would that mean he'd have to go run WEC? Because that seems to be a lame duck series at the moment.
I don't know. It's really interesting. Yes, I don't know. It depends on what the situation is with the IMSA teams. I could see him sticking in IMSA if he could find a team that wants to go over to Le Mans. And it also depends on with the new regulations with the LMD8 and the LMH stuff coming out. How many changes? How much is that going to get pushed back? Is there a team that wants to go there beforehand? There's so much riding on that. So I guess it's going to be a watch and wait, see what happens in the off season. For all we know, he could get picked up by an IndyCar team again.
That would be a dream come true. Think about it. Him, Jimmy Johnson, Kurt Busch, and AJ Allmendinger.
Oh, geez. I think the Jimmy Johnson thing, if he only runs the roads except for maybe the 500, I think the oval driver in that car may be TK. But that'd be kind of cool to see JPM step in. I think TK probably would be the second for that Johnson car. But it'd be cool if Montoya came back and maybe ran the ovals. It's going to be interesting to see how everything ends up with the Acura program in IMSA. The cars, the renderings so far that I've seen of the paint schemes on the cars look absolutely gorgeous. It's going to be really neat. It'll be neat, hopefully see Ricky Taylor back at Wayne Taylor Racing. I know that Jordan's off of the Corvette team, and that's a great opportunity for him. Maybe he comes home one day and we can get that lineup back. But it'll be interesting to see who Mike Shank puts in the car besides Dane Cameron, because obviously they need two drivers for that program. Who do they have in there now?
If I'm not mistaken, is Andy Lally part of that? Or is he in a Lamborghini? I can't remember if he's in
He might be in a Lambo. I'm trying to think. He's with Mike Shank. Yep. Yeah, he was with Magnus. That's what I remember. So Andy Lally is with Mike Shank. Yeah, he drove for Magnus for a while. And then in 2017, he joined Mike Shank. So it will be interesting if he moves on up into that. Andy Lally's a heck of a driver.
Yeah, I wish Catherine I don't know if she's still associated with that team, even tangentially, but it'd be great to see her in a DPI.
She is currently...
She's LMP2 racing, though, right?
Well, not right now, but...
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it'd be neat to see her back in that ride. It'd be cool to see her in a DPI because I think she could really perform. She's obviously proven herself very well, and she's got the LMP2 experience now, so, and obviously the Delta Wing experience. But it'll be interesting because if I'm correct, a driver associated with Michael Shank Racing, if I'm still correct, is a Mr. Allmendinger.
I think you're right.
I think he drives one of the cars for Mike Shank and commentates. But yeah, so I would love to see Allmendinger back in a prototype again because I still remember, oh gosh, what year was it?
It was Grand Am.
Yeah, it was Grand Am.
Still, yeah, it was like the last year of the Rolex series.
I want to say it was 13 then.
Yeah, I remember the 24 Hours of Daytona when him and Ryan Dial going at it and just banging fenders on the oval like it was a NASCAR race, and just they were throwing everything at each other. And you've got Allmendinger, who is really one of the top American talents really in the last generation, I think, coming through open wheel, and just that kind of stalled out. But having him in the team racing against Ryan Dial, and Ryan Dial has such an amazing record in endurance racing in Europe. But having those two go against each other at the 24 Hours of Daytona and watch it drop the gloves and go at it was awesome to watch. So that was really cool. And that was also in a Shank car. So that will be interesting to see if we get, what the driver lineup's going to be in that car. And also it's rumored that Shank, it's the rumblings have been heard, and the rumors may be Shank is looking at a second IndyCar.
Okay, that's ambitious.
Who goes in that seat? Go. Show your predictions.
Zach Veach.
Ooh, I like that.
Ooh, you'd have to bring some money to the seat, and Gamebridge is. We'll get to that. Hold on, that's the IndyCar thing we. That was the big one that came out.
Coming right up
in a moment, but I would say maybe Elio.
How about AJ Allmendinger to Mike Shank in IndyCar? They go to a second car.
They're good buddies, so I could see him lean on and be like, "Hey, Mike, you want to put me in a car?" Or Mike lean on and be like, "AJ, get your butt out there." So yeah, that would be really cool. There we go. AJ, we've got it all planned out for you. If Mike wants to put that second car in, you jump in that second car for him and show him how it's done.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Honda would love it. Jack Harvey could only get better from it. Yeah, there we go. Good one, Andrew. Yeah. If it happens, you heard it here first. Andrew McCaul predicts AJ Allmendinger. Take it to the bank.
Yeah, bet the house on it.
Yeah. So
Not my house. But...
getting back into the news, the next big topic that we kind of accidentally dropped right there. The big announcement this week. We get these big bombshells, and this is a huge bombshell going forward. Also, Zach Veach is out at Andretti Autosport. He had 3 races left this year, the doubleheader at Indy and then St. Pete, and that was all that was left on his contract. And it was kind of expected that he probably wouldn't continue on after that because he really hasn't shown much in IndyCar. Great guy for marketing. He brought Gamebridge with him, but his results just haven't been there for one reason or another. But apparently they had a meeting. Some things happened, I'm guessing, and he announced that he would be stepping out of the seat for the final 3 races. And they're taking this time to shore up who they're going to put in that seat next year, because there will be a car there next year, apparently. And apparently part of the news is, I think I read this right, Gamebridge is staying with Andretti and not going with Veach, even though Veach brought them. So, yeah.
The rumor is that Hinch is tagged for that seat, right?
I think it's kind of decided, from what I've read, that Hinch is going to close out the season in the seat. That's the big rumor.
Yeah, he'll be the caretaker at least.
Because he'll, do a good job with the car, bring it home, maybe put it on a podium. Who's going to be in the car next year? That's a good question.
I think if they don't take advantage of having James Hinchcliffe close at hand, I think that'll be a big mistake if they don't make the most of that.
Yeah, so the big question going forward is there are 2 things in play. So they just lost Veach, or they got rid of Veach, so that car is open. This is a contract year for Hunter Ray. And he's starting to get up there in age, and you've noticed his results have really started to drop off.
Yes, honestly, since he won the championship.
Yeah.
Since he won the 500.
Yeah, his results have dropped off. He's got a lot of kids now. So I don't know if he's going to continue on. I wouldn't blame him if he wanted to retire right now, because he's got his Indy 500, he's got his championship, and he's got a great family. This might be prime time, get out while you're a hero kind of thing. So that seat may open up, and the interesting thing there is, see, this is where it could all kind of click into place. DHL is Hunter Ray's sponsor, not Andretti's, apparently. He brought DHL to the team, and they are aligned with him. And yes, they sponsor, their names on a bunch of the Andretti cars. But if he leaves, I think DHL goes with him. So that would leave a car without a sponsor. Gainbridge is staying with Andretti. So I could see Gainbridge moving over to that car and then putting somebody in that seat. And then they have Veach's car open. And Hinch has struck up a really good relationship with Genesis. They are very much on the Hinch bandwagon. So I could see Hinch coming over and having Genesis for his full-time sponsorship.
Does Herta get shuffled around?
It'll be interesting. The other interesting thing is, and this is something I think that there's a fact here and then something that fans want. This is also a contract year for Marco. Now, given it's his dad's team and he is technically co-owner of the car he drives, except for the pole position this year at Indy, which he did not capitalize on, is it time for Marco to step aside? And then all of a sudden we have 3 seats open at Andretti and Herta.
Now it's time for the hot takes.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Rossi's just in here like, don't mind me.
Rossi and Herta are the only ones who have contracts in place, and they will be there at the team, unless Rossi gets really mad and walks away. But Herta is obviously going to be there for some time.
I think Herta's has too much. I think Herta and Rossi have too much potential for Andretti to ever let them go.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're the ones who've been really showing out recently.
And it's going to be interesting because you've got Rossi, and while Rossi is a great driver, I don't want to call Rossi a team leader.
No, he very much is a lone wolf.
He's a lone wolf. He's got that European racing mindset. He's a great racer, but he's very hot-headed. So I wouldn't want him to lead the team. Herta is certainly not ready to lead the team yet. He's kind of been a lone wolf with the Harding-Steinbrenner team, even though they're an Andretti team this year. But he's so young, I wouldn't want him to lead the team technically. So I think Andretti brings in at least one seasoned veteran, possibly Hinch, to kind of lead the team and lean on technically and kind of bring everyone back down to earth. But then what do we do with the other two cars? So, yeah, hot takes.
Hot takes commence. All right. Kyle Kirkwood.
Kirkwood
was mentioned quite a bit. Apparently, there's the possibility, but then I guess a lot of people are saying that Andretti wants to run him a full year in lights if lights gets going again before moving him up to the big show.
I think Kirkwood would definitely be at least another year in lights.
Yeah, he's in line though, I would say.
Yeah.
Let's see. What's Urrutia? Santiago Urrutia.
Sandy Urrutia. Oh boy, I haven't heard that name in a while.
Well, wait, if we want to talk about names you haven't heard in a while, Gustavo Yakin.
Oh geez, Aaron Telitz.
Esteban Guerrieri.
Oh.
Gabby Chavez. All right, come on, dark horses. Let's go.
Cody Swanson.
Ooh, Shelby Blackstock.
Bobby Santos. Let's just start naming Silver Crown drivers.
I'm going to come out and say a name right now. This is going to be
Steve Kinzer.
Jimmy Simpson.
Chris Dyson. He's got sports car experience.
Ooh, Dyson will be fun. And he's got the Silver Crown experience.
Tristan Vautier.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I really like that one.
I'll tell you who would be interesting to come back. Carlos Munoz.
Oh,
yes, I knew it.
Might be better. Sorry, Christian.
What?
That one might be even better than Vautier.
Yeah.
Carlos Munoz. I said it at the same time he did.
You know, let's just name off entire Indy Lights fields from the past.
Jacques Villeneuve.
Ooh, Zach Oh wait.
Ouch.
Oh,
too soon.
Cut that one.
No, we're leaving that one in. The first cut is the deepest.
Oh no, I feel bad. Like Zach Beach, I met him. He is a genuinely wonderful guy.
I love Zach Beach.
He is.
I wish he was my little brother.
For real. Like he is such a great dude, you know. And like I feel for him. I've been pulling for him ever since he had that purple and green Indy Lights car.
I have a hero card of him signed in the garage. I did the Stand Up to Cancer indoor race at Fast Times, and they said they were going to have IndyCar drivers and Indy Lights drivers show up, and he was one of the drivers who showed up, and he was so cool to talk to, and we got his hero card autographed, and this was before he got an IndyCar, and he said he was working on gaining weight to get into IndyCar because he was so small. And he's so tiny. But so was Danica when I seen her. So
was Takuma Sato. Let's be honest.
Yeah. I guess Sato and Ferrucci and Veach are the same height, and then Sato is like maybe the same height or close to it. They're all really literally when we talk about jockeys here, people, they are pretty much jockeys. So I guess IndyCar and racing in general learn from the horse race.
Yeah, Veach is what, 5'4" or something, 5'5"?
Thought he already might have been 5'3", somewhere in that neighborhood.
Look, Andrew, you and I are not tall dudes, but they make us look like giants.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah. Hot takes of who's going to end up in that seat. There's a million names, much like when Hinch wanted to drive the GoDaddy car. It will be interesting. We thought the NASCAR silly season was going to be too silly. Now the season's just getting too silly.
Yeah, my apologies to the NASCAR community. I said that last week. I said that y'all were too silly, and well,
IndyCar is
um,
just trying to one up everybody right now. So
yeah, yeah, for real.
another big one. They're all big. The big one was announced that Penske will be running a 4-car at St.
That's what
Pete.
it was,
Yep,
McLaughlin.
Mister. Give it some
Scott,
jandal.
Scotty McLaughlin.
Oh boy.
Will be in the 3-car at St. Pete. And if that doesn't make the final nail in the coffin for Elio and Penske, I don't know what does.
Even
But the
gave him
fact,
his number.
yeah,
He is
gave
the
him his number.
rightful heir to the car.
And it sounds like he's gotten all the proper, he's gone through all the proper channels and gotten his paperwork done and his stuff approved by the government to come over because of the pandemic. So he is going to be stepping in at St. Pete as long as St. Pete happens, which it sounds like if Penske's making that announcement, it sounds like St. Pete's happening.
Yeah.
He wouldn't just do that and then cancel everything all of a sudden. So it sounds like St. Pete is happening to some extent. So we finally get to see Scotty McLaughlin in for the season finale. That will be very interesting.
Be like
Give us
one of
some
those sneak
jandal.
previews.
Yeah. And the thought is, since Penske is no longer going to be running a sports car program, he still has those employees that they're going to pull, a 4th car out for the full season next year, because it was rumored that McLaughlin would be coming over to run. If he's impressed in the test, if he impresses in this race, it's almost a done deal that he's going to come run time. He really wants to. And probably Penske wants to keep him under contract. And I'm guessing that if he doesn't get to come run IndyCar, Penske might lose him. That might be one of the things for re-signing him. And originally it was which Penske driver is going to get the axe, because they said they would only run 3 cars next year. And now it's sounding more and more like everything's fallen into place to run that 4th car, to run the 3-car full time with Scott McLaughlin. And they obviously have some sponsorship on board. He's going to be running the Shell V-Power colors. Very much like that's a supercars ride, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Same colors, just number 3. So very much like the iRacing car that he drove. So
I think that was the point.
Yep. That'll be very, very neat to see that. We got all these big names coming into IndyCar now. We got McLaughlin, who is a supercars, I still call him V8 supercars. Champion, major, awesome driver. We got Jimmy Johnson coming over. We just lost Alonso back to F1, but we had Alonso. We're talking about all this excitement, and what a good time to be an IndyCar fan. I'll tell you what.
For real. It's been some lean years.
So it'll be interesting. We're going to have to see what conspires in the coming weeks, see how Elio does at McLaren. They said at one point they were interested in adding a 3rd car to the team, and they have 2 rookies. With Askew and O'Ward, they've done a good job, but wouldn't you love to have some great technical knowledge in there? So maybe this is Elio's audition for that team. We don't know. There's a lot going on. I think the Harvest Grand Prix is going to be a very pivotal race weekend across the board for IndyCar, and that could send shockwaves through the rest of American motorsports as we know it in the top levels, to see who's going to end up where, what puzzle pieces fall into place. So, as they say back in the day, as I think it was Chris Economaki, now stay tuned.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting. I encourage everyone out there to tune into the race. Sounds like Andrew's going to go. I'm begging my wife to see if I can go. We will see how things turn out, and hopefully get some more interesting news. I think maybe if we go, Andrew, we could do a hot take from the Speedway, as long as
yes.
yellow shirts don't find us. Because I can record all this on my phone. But we could do some hot takes live, so to speak, or on site from the Speedway. But
we'll spread our hot take blessings onto the track.
Yes. So it will be very interesting. So yeah, that was kind of our big news episode for the week. Let me try and wrap this up. Hopefully there's no more news that pops into my feed right now. Probably the minute we stop recording, they're going to have some big announcement somewhere. So yeah. Yeah. It's been a week, but hopefully we get everything panning out and to see some more life in the motorsports world through after this, hopefully get through this pandemic. But it'll be interesting to see everything going forward. So closing it out, as I say every week to all of you, thank you so much. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. Please tune into us. We're on quite a few sites right now. I know we're on Spotify and whatnot with our podcast, but Anchor.fm is our main home for just the audio side of it. YouTube is our main home for the video audio side of it. And as I say every week, remember to keep it on all fours and keep on keeping on. Cue the kart sounds. See you later, guys.
Bye. Bye.